The courtroom falls silent as Kody Brown rises to his feet, his hands shaking, not with fear, but with something darker. Across the aisle, Christine stares him down, her jaw clenched, while a sealed envelope containing the one secret that could destroy everything sits before the judge. Everyone thinks they know the truth about the Brown family, but today, the truth is about to turn on them in a way no one saw coming. Before diving into this unraveling storm of secrets, betrayal, and emotional courtroom chaos, tell me in the comments what you would have done if your whole family's future depended on one hidden truth. The tension thickens inside the courtroom like humid air before a storm the moment the judge lifts his eyes from the case file. The Brown family sits scattered across the room as if they're strangers forced into the same space, each one clasping their own version of the truth. Christine's hands are clasped tightly in her lap, her knuckles white, but her face is controlled. Too controlled, as if she were holding back a flood she refuses to let anyone see. Janelle sits slightly behind her, leaning forward with her elbows on her knees, lips pressed thin, eyes watching every move Kody makes as though preparing for a battle long overdue. Robyn, wrapped in a soft beige shawl, clutches a tissue before the judge even says a word, already trembling with the fear of what might unfold. Then there's Meri, set apart from them all, her stare distant, unreadable, as if she's seeing something beyond the courtroom walls, something only she understands. Kody stands center amidst it all, rigid, jaw locked, trying to appear composed, but the twitch in his eyebrow and the restless shifting of his shoulders betray him. Today isn't just about legal documents or financial disclosures. Today is about something none of them has ever addressed directly, something that has haunted the family long before cameras ever rolled. And as the judge speaks, his voice steady and slow, he asks a question that slices straight through the stillness. Are all parties prepared to reveal their statements regarding the disputed claim? At that moment, Kody's eyes flick toward Christine, and for the first time in months, something like fear crosses his face. She sees it, and she knows that he knows. That envelope on the judge's desk isn't just paper. It's a detonator. Before we continue, imagine sitting in a room where one truth could rewrite your entire life. Would you stay silent or finally speak? The judge motions for the attorneys to approach, but before they make it to the bench, something unexpected unfolds. Christine rises. She doesn't wait for permission, just stands, shoulders squared, her voice steady, as she says, "Your Honor, I need to clarify something before we proceed." Gasps scatter through the room like sparks. Christine has always been measured, always avoided direct confrontation, especially in front of strangers, but today she moves with purpose. The judge nods for her to continue, and Christine's eyes shift toward Kody, lingering on him for a long, heavy second. "I want it on record," she says, "that the events leading to this case did not begin last year, or even 5 years ago. They began decades ago, long before any of us understood what leaving or staying would cost." Kody stiffens, and Robyn's hand flies to her mouth. The attorney at Kody's side whispers for him to sit, but he ignores her, unable to look away from Christine. Her voice doesn't rise, but it grows sharper, slicing through the air with controlled precision. She talks about late-night arguments, broken promises, moments when she tried to speak up, but was told to stay united for the family. She describes memories that once felt private and painful, but now spill into the open like water breaking through a dam. And yet, this isn't an attack. It's a foundation. One she's building piece by piece so that when the real storm hits, no one can claim ignorance. If you feel the tension rising, that's because the truth always shakes the room before it settles. Stay with me. It's only getting deeper. Kody tries to interrupt, stepping forward as he blurts, "That's not how it happened." But the judge slams his gavel, his voice firm. "Mr. Brown, you will wait your turn." Kody's nostrils flare, but he steps back, jaw grinding as he sits down, barely contained. Kristen continues, telling the court about a pattern, small dismissals, subtle manipulations, emotional fractures that widened over time. She's not crying, not yelling, just telling the truth with a level of calm that shakes Kody more than anger ever could. When she pauses, the judge lifts his pen, narrowing his eyes. "Mrs. Brown," he says gently, "are you suggesting that the disputed claim is rooted in long-term emotional or financial misconduct?" Christine doesn't answer immediately. She turns her head and looks directly at Robyn. The room freezes. Silence takes on a new weight, and then she says it. "I'm suggesting that some of us were living in a marriage, while others were living in an arrangement that benefited only one person." Robyn breaks. Tears spill instantly as she whispers, "That's not fair!" But her voice barely carries. Janelle shifts, exhaling sharply, as if relieved that someone finally said what she's been biting back for years. Meri blinks slowly, her expression cracking slightly, revealing a flicker of emotion she tries to hide. The judge leans back in his seat, hands clasped together, letting the weight of Christine's words fill the room. And then he gestures toward Kody. Mr. Brown, you will have the opportunity to respond. The moment Kody rises, everything changes. His voice comes out low, steady, almost rehearsed. He talks about sacrifice, responsibility, and how he carried the weight of 4 marriages alone. He paints himself as overburdened, misunderstood, even betrayed. He insists he always acted in the best interests of the family, but under the surface, beneath his carefully chosen words, is something brittle, something ready to crack. Because Kody isn't just defending himself, he's trying to keep control, and for the first time in his life, he feels it slipping. This is where most people would walk away, but you're here, and the truth is about to shift in a direction none of them expect. The judge listens, expression neutral, before asking, Mr. Brown, are you disputing the contents of the sealed envelope? Every head turns toward the envelope. Christine's breath catches. Janelle leans forward. Robyn whispers a shaky prayer. Meri stares, but doesn't move. Kody hesitates, just for a second, but in that second, the entire courtroom sees the truth. He's terrified of what's inside. I don't believe the information in that envelope is relevant, he says finally. The judge raises a brow. If you're not concerned with its relevance, then you won't object to its admission into evidence. Kody's throat tightens. Everyone sees it. The judge signals to the clerk. The envelope is lifted, unsealed, and slowly unfolded. The sound of paper sliding free echoes through the room like a warning bell. Christine's heart races. Kody's pulse hammers. Janelle grips the arm of her chair. Robyn holds her breath. Meri doesn't blink. And as the judge reads the first line, his eyes widen, not with confusion, but with shock. He looks up, stares directly at Kody, and says, Mr. Brown, you didn't disclose this. The entire courtroom erupts, and just as the chaos reaches its peak, the judge raises his voice and announces, We will recess for 15 minutes. When we return, the court will address the undisclosed evidence and its consequences. When the courtroom doors swing shut for the 15-minute recess, the hallway outside fills with a crackling electricity. People whispering, pacing, clutching their chests as if trying to steady a heart beating too hard. Christine walks out first, not with triumph, but with a quiet, heavy determination. Her steps slow and controlled as she moves toward a wooden bench against the wall. Janelle follows her, but she doesn't sit. She stands close, arms crossed tightly around herself, her jaw set in a way that says she's preparing for the impact of whatever's coming next. Robyn emerges last, wiping her cheeks with trembling hands, her breath short and uneven, glancing back toward the courtroom as though expecting someone, anyone, to tell her this isn't real. Kody comes out moments afterward, shoulders tense, walking stiffly like a man waiting for a verdict he already knows won't go in his favor. He stops a few feet away from his wives. Well, his former wives, and their eyes meet in a moment that feels like 30 years condensed into a single breath. He wants to say something, maybe defend himself again, or accuse Christine of blindsiding him, but the words die in his throat when he sees the expression on her face. It isn't anger, it isn't satisfaction, it's sorrow, deep, quiet, impossible to ignore sorrow that makes him flinch inwardly. For years he believed he held the power. Yet here she stands, no longer under his shadow, no longer afraid of the consequences of speaking the truth. The moment you realize your voice can shake someone who once controlled everything, that's a power most people never reclaim, and that's exactly what Christine is feeling right now. A bailiff passes by, giving the Brown family a cautious look, clearly sensing the weight of everything building between them. Robyn steps closer to Kody, her voice barely above a whisper as she asks, What was in that envelope, Kody? What did you hide? Her question trembles in the air. Kody's eyes slide away, avoiding hers entirely, focusing instead on a blank spot on the floor as he mutters, It's nothing. It's being blown out of proportion. That answer makes Christine let out a broken, sarcastic laugh, a sound she immediately clamps down on with a hand over her mouth. Janelle turns toward Kody, her eyes sharp, piercing. If it was nothing, she says, her voice low and calm, you wouldn't look like you're about to pass out. Robyn's breath catches again, her makeup smudged at the edges. Please, tell me the truth. But the truth, the real truth, sits trapped behind Kody's clenched jaw. The hallway feels smaller now, tighter, as if the walls themselves are leaning in to hear every word. Meri stands a little further down the hall, leaning against the wall with her arms wrapped around herself. She watches them, but her expression is unreadable, haunted even. She hasn't said a word since the envelope was opened, but her silence is its own confession. She knows something, and Christine sees it. Slowly, she pushes herself to her feet and walks toward Meri, stopping a few feet away. "You knew," Christine says softly, not accusing, not angry, just acknowledging. Meri inhales sharply, her eyes glistening with something she's clearly been holding back for too long. "Not everything," Meri whispers, "but enough." Christine closes her eyes for a moment, steadying herself against the sting of betrayal layered on top of betrayal. When she opens them again, she looks directly at Kody, her voice quiet but unwavering. "You didn't just hide something from the courts," she says. "You hid it from your family." Secrets don't destroy relationships. Silence does. And right now, the silence between them is louder than the judge's gavel ever could be. The air becomes heavier, thicker, when the judge's assistant steps into the hallway and calls everyone back inside. It's almost surreal how they file into the courtroom, like soldiers returning to the battlefield, each step measured, each breath bracing for impact. The judge sits straighter than before, his expression stern, the open envelope resting in front of him like a verdict carved into paper. He waits for everyone to settle before speaking, his voice deep and steady. This information, he begins tapping the document with a single finger, is significant. It affects the credibility of Mr. Brown's financial statements, his prior testimony, and his overall transparency with the court. Kody shifts in his seat, his breath shallow. The judge continues. It appears that Mr. Brown failed to disclose an account with substantial funds that were moved without proper documentation, funds that appear to have been redirected from the family trust. A gasp echoes from somewhere in the courtroom. Robyn's hand flies to her chest. Janelle turns sharply toward Kody, her face twisting with shock and anger. Christine closes her eyes, exhaling shakily, as if this revelation only confirms something she suspected long ago. The judge lifts the document again. This account was kept separate, hidden. In addition to that, there are signed transfers indicating an intent to move shared marital assets into a private account under Mr. Brown's sole control. Kody finally snaps. That money was for emergencies. He explodes, standing abruptly as if the force of his own voice could erase the words on the page. It wasn't meant to be used yet. I was trying to protect everyone. The judge pounds the gavel. "Sit down, Mr. Brown." Kody freezes, chest heaving, before sinking back into his seat, his face flushed. Christine stares at him, her voice breaking only slightly as she asks, "Was it for us, or was it for you and Robyn?" The question slices through the courtroom like a blade. Robyn shakes her head desperately, tears falling again. "I didn't know," she whispers. "I swear I didn't know." But her voice wavers with doubt. Even she isn't sure what's true anymore. Meri sits rigid, eyes wide, completely still, as if her body understands the gravity even before her mind catches up. The judge turns to Christine. "Mrs. Brown, you may continue your statement regarding how this undisclosed information impacted you." Christine nods, swallowing hard. She begins to speak, not with anger, but with exhaustion, raw honesty peeling out of her. She talks about years of sacrifice, of watching the family struggle financially while Kody insisted they stay united, only to now discover he was diverting funds for reasons he refuses to fully explain. She describes the emotional toll of constantly feeling like the outsider, like her concerns didn't matter, like she was disposable. Her voice trembles, but she keeps going because she has to, because this moment is her reclaiming every part of herself she buried to make the marriage work. When someone finally tells the truth after years of being silenced, their voice becomes the loudest thing in the room, no matter how soft they speak. Janelle joins in next, adding details that strengthen Christine's claims. Times when money went missing, times when Kody dismissed their questions, times when Robyn's household seemed curiously unaffected whenever the rest of them were struggling. Then the judge turns back to Kody. "Mr. Brown," he says slowly, "be very careful with your response. The court now needs explanation, recorded clearly and truthfully." Kody sits there trembling, not visibly, not dramatically, but in tiny, involuntary twitches of his fingers and jaw. He starts to speak, stops, breathes, then tries again. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, he says. I didn't know how to keep everything together anymore. But the judge's expression doesn't soften. We will determine the intent and impact in due process, he says. Then he sets the document down and looks at all parties. Before we proceed, I need to ask each of you one question. Did anyone besides Mr. Brown know about this account? The room holds its breath. There is no sound. And then, Meri raises her hand. A stunned murmur ripples through the courtroom as she says, voice small but clear. I knew part of it. Christine's world tilts. Janelle gasps. Robyn covers her mouth. Kody shuts his eyes, defeated. The judge leans forward sharply. Mrs. Brown, approach the bench. As Meri rises, the weight of what she's about to reveal threatens to crack the entire case and the family wide open. And the moment she opens her mouth, everything the Browns thought they understood about loyalty, betrayal, and truth is about to shift again. Meri walks toward the judge with steps so slow and deliberate that every footfall seems to echo through the courtroom like a countdown to something catastrophic. Her hands are clasped together, fingers trembling, her face tight with fear and shame as she stands before the bench. The judge peers at her over his glasses, his expression stern but curious, as though sensing that whatever she's about to confess carries decades of buried weight. Behind her, the others watch with breathless anticipation, Christine's brows pulled together in confusion, Janelle's chest rising and falling rapidly as anger mixes with dread, Robyn gripping the edge of her seat so tightly her knuckles turn white, and Kody, he's frozen, eyes locked on Meri with a look that teeters between panic and disbelief. Meri swallows hard, her voice small as she speaks. Your Honor? I didn't know everything. I only knew that the account existed. I didn't know what was inside it or why he kept it hidden. But I knew something. The judge leans back, folding his hands with a disappointed sigh. And why? He asked. Did you not report this information when the court requested full disclosure from all parties? Meri hesitates, blinking back tears. But the truth, whatever shape it takes, pushes its way up her throat like a confession she can't outrun. Because I thought it wasn't my place, she whispers. I thought if I stayed quiet, things would get better, that we could still fix something. A painful silence sweeps across the room. Christine looks gutted, betrayed all over again, not by cruelty, but by the realization that Meri, the woman who once suffered alone in her corner of the family, still kept secrets to protect the very man who let her break. Sometimes loyalty is just another word for self-destruction, and Meri is realizing that truth in real time. Kody shifts uncomfortably, rubbing his forehead as if trying to massage away the pressure building behind his skull. Meri didn't know anything important. He blurts suddenly, his voice rising defensively. She's exaggerating. She misunderstood. But Meri snaps her head toward him with an expression none of them have seen in years. Not quiet resignation, not hopeful longing, but fury. Real, sharp, trembling fury. Her voice cracks as she whispers, "Don't you dare tell me what I did or didn't know." The judge raises a hand. Enough. And the word lands like a scolded verdict. Meri turns back to him, wiping her cheeks, steadying herself. I saw one transfer slip, she continues, years ago. I asked Kody about it, and he told me. He told me it was for a future investment, something for all of us. But he made me promise not to bring it up again. He said talking about it would only create jealousy, and... Her voice breaks. I believed him. Christine's hand flies to her chest, her heart aching as she hears the story she never expected to come from the woman she once shared everything with. Janelle shakes her head slowly, her lips forming a silent, disbelieving, "Oh my God." Tears stream down Robyn's face as she looks between Meri and Kody, as if she's watching the family tear itself apart in front of her, and this time, she can't blame anyone but the man she defended for years. The truth doesn't just hurt, it rearranges everything around it, and the Browns are standing in the rubble of their own silence. The judge clears his throat. Mrs. Brown, your partial knowledge still places you under the court's scrutiny. We will consider your role after reviewing all testimony. A surge of shame rattles through Meri's body as she returns to her seat, avoiding everyone's eyes. Christine watches her sit down, torn between heartbreak and anger, because yes, she understands why Meri stayed silent, but she also understands the damage that silence caused. She opens her mouth to speak, but before she can, the judge turns to Kody again. Mr. Brown, your failure to disclose this account puts the integrity of your entire testimony in question. I need a full explanation, now. Kody stiffens. His breath catches. His Adam's apple bobs as he swallows. The courtroom leans in. For the first time since the hearing began, he looks truly cornered. Not by Christine's courage or Janelle's anger or Robyn's disillusionment, but by the undeniable weight of the truth. And finally, he breaks. Fine, he says, voice cracking. I'll explain. The air tightens. Christine grips the edge of her chair. Janelle's eyes narrow. Robyn clasps her hands, whispering something under her breath. Meri closes her eyes, and Kody speaks. That account, it wasn't supposed to be a secret. Not forever. His words wobble with conflicted emotion. I started it years ago. Before any of you knew, things were falling apart. Before the show, before the world started watching us, I thought someday we'd need a backup plan. Christine's face contorts with disbelief. A backup plan for what, Kody? For your escape. Kody slams his hand on the table. No, for when everything came crashing down. His voice echoes in the courtroom, wild and trembling. You all saw the pressure we were under. The cameras, the expectations, the responsibility of managing 4 marriages, 18 kids, and a public image. I was trying to prepare for the moment when the entire family, this family, would need protection. But the way his voice shakes reveals something deeper, something darker. And when the judge asks, protection from what, Mr. Brown? The entire courtroom goes still. Kody's mouth opens, then closes. He looks at his hands trembling in his lap. From each other, he finally whispers. Christine inhales sharply, her heart plunging. Janelle's face collapses into heartbreak. Robyn lets out a small, pained cry. Meri barely holds herself together, because those 3 words say everything. Kody wasn't saving the family, he was preparing for its collapse. Worse, he assumed the collapse would be caused by them, not him. Sometimes the biggest betrayal isn't what someone hides, it's why they hide it, and Kody's reason cuts deeper than any secret ever could. The judge pinches the bridge of his nose. Mr. Brown, he says, voice cold, your justification does not excuse the concealment of marital assets, nor does it justify isolating funds meant for shared benefit. Kody's shoulders slump, defeated. I was scared, he adds quietly. I thought if I didn't take control, everything would fall apart. Christine shakes her head slowly. It wasn't your job to control us, she says softly. It was your job to trust us. Janelle leans forward, her voice steady but sharp enough to wound. You didn't protect us, Kody. You protected yourself from the consequences of losing us. Robyn's sobs grow louder now because she, more than anyone, believed she was the exception, the one he confided in. But today, she sees the truth. She didn't know him as well as she thought. The judge raises a hand. We will now consider the admissibility of this evidence and its impact on ongoing custody and property evaluations. His gavel strikes once, sharp, final, echoing, but before the courtroom can settle, Christine speaks again, her voice trembling with something she's been holding inside for years. Your Honor, she says, there is something else, something we haven't discussed yet, something that makes all of this even worse. The judge looks up, surprised. Janelle freezes. Meri opens her eyes, confused. Robyn covers her mouth, and Kody's eyes widen with terror. Christine rises slowly, as though the weight of her next words may crush her. She swallows hard, breathes, then she says it. That account isn't the only thing he hid. Gasps ripple through the courtroom like a shockwave. Kody lunges forward. Christine, don't! But it's too late. She looks right at him, heartbreak and fury mixing in her eyes. Tell them, Kody, she whispers. Tell them about the second secret. The judge leans forward, voice tense. Mr. Brown, is there another account? Kody stays silent, jaw trembling, face pale. And in that silence, everyone realizes the truth. Christine's not bluffing. The storm isn't over. It's just beginning. The courtroom turns ice cold the moment Christine's words land, as if the air itself recoils from the weight of the revelation. Everyone sits frozen, not because they don't believe her, but because they do. They've lived with Kody long enough to recognize the truth hiding behind his silence. Christine stands tall, but her hands tremble at her sides, her chest rising and falling as she tries to gather the courage to continue. Janelle looks at her with wide eyes, shock and recognition flickering together. She knew something was off, but not like this. Robyn grips the table, her whole body trembling as if trying to physically hold on to a version of reality that's slipping through her fingers. Meri covers her mouth, whispering something no one else can hear. And Kody? He looks broken, the mask he always wore cracking in real time, his eyes darting from Christine to the judge, to the envelope on the table, then back to Christine again, as though searching for an escape route that no longer exists. The judge's voice cuts like a blade through the tension. "Mr. Brown," he says slowly, "I expect an immediate response. Is there another undisclosed account?" Kody opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again, stammering without sound, a man drowning in truths he can no longer bury. Christine inhales shakily, her voice softer now, but each word carries the emotional weight of years. "It wasn't money for emergencies," she says. "It wasn't for the family. It wasn't even for the future." She turns her gaze to the judge. It was for someone else. A collective gasp ripples through the room. Robyn's face drains of color. "What do you mean, someone else?" she asks, her voice cracking as she looks at Christine, then at Kody in desperation. Kody's hands slam onto the table, not in anger, but panic. "Christine, don't do this," he pleads, voice shaky, desperate. "Don't twist it. You don't understand." Christine laughs, a hollow, heartbreaking sound that fills the room with bitterness. "Oh, I understand perfectly. I understand now more than ever." She wipes a tear from her cheek, though more spill instantly. "I understand why you were always distant. Why you had less time for the kids, why suddenly certain business trips became more frequent. The truth isn't just painful. It rearranges the past in ways that hurt even more, and Christine is reliving every wound right there in front of him. The judge holds up a hand. "Mrs. Brown, are you alleging that Mr. Brown diverted marital assets for the benefit of a third party?" Christine nods slowly. "Yes, Your Honor, I am." Robyn shakes her head violently, her voice rising. No, that's not possible. Kody wouldn't do that." But as the words leave her mouth, even she looks uncertain, her voice cracking like glass. Janelle stands suddenly, her chair screeching across the floor as she nearly collapses from the shock. "Kody," she whispers, "please tell me this isn't true." Kody looks at her, and for the first time his eyes well with tears. Not manipulative, not dramatic, but real tears of regret and fear. I made mistakes," he whispers. That single sentence detonates inside the courtroom. Christine's breath catches. Janelle slaps a hand over her mouth. Robyn sobs harder. Meri looks like she's been punched. The judge leans forward sharply. "Mr. Brown, this court needs specifics." Kody grips the sides of the table as though holding on to it will keep him standing. "It wasn't what you think," he says, voice trembling. "It wasn't another woman. It wasn't an affair." Christine closes her eyes for a moment, steadying herself. "It wasn't romantic," she agrees, "but it was betrayal." The judge motions for her to continue. Christine turns toward the courtroom, her voice soft, but every word deliberate. The second account was meant for one person, a person Kody planned to cut off from the family. Confusion sweeps across the room. Even Robyn stops crying long enough to whisper, "Cut off who?" Christine looks straight at Kody, and the silence that follows is more painful than any scream could be. "One of our kids," she says. The courtroom erupts into chaos. Gasps, cries, disbelief. Even the judge has to pound the gavel repeatedly to regain control. Janelle collapses back into her chair, horror spreading across her face. Which kid?" she demands. Her voice shakes violently, like she already fears the answer. Kody's hands tremble uncontrollably as he whispers, "I was trying to help." "Help?" Christine snaps, her voice sharp, raw. "You set aside money to push them out of the family, Kody. You were planning to send them away. When betrayal touches a child, the entire room changes. It becomes a battlefield where every parent rises, whether united or broken. Robyn clutches her heart, her breath coming in short gasps. "Why?" she cries. "Why would you do that? Who was it?" Kody covers his face with his hands shaking. Christine turns to the judge. "Your Honor, he made a secret plan to remove one of our kids from the household and relocate them. He claimed it was for their future safety, but really it was because they questioned him, because they challenged him." The courtroom falls dead silent once more. Every parent in the room feels the weight of her words. The judge's voice becomes hard, cold. "Mr. Brown, is this true?" At first, Kody doesn't answer. Then slowly, painfully, he nods. Robyn breaks into sobs, collapsing into herself. Meri lets out a single anguished cry, short, sharp, and devastating. Janelle rises again, furious now. "Which child? Tell us now!" she screams, her voice cracking with rage and heartbreak. Kody's shoulders shake, his lips tremble, and then he whispers a name so soft no one hears it the first time. "What?" Christine demands. "Say it louder." Kody looks up, tears streaming down his face. "Gabe," he whispers. Janelle gasps so violently she staggers backward, her hand slamming against the table to steady herself. "You were going to Brown," he says, the words slow and weighted. "This is not a family feud issue. This is endangerment, emotional neglect, and intentional alienation. This court will not ignore this." Kody collapses into his chair, completely undone. Janelle walks toward him, not slowly, not timidly, but with the unstoppable force of a mother protecting her child. She stands inches from him, her voice shaking with rage. "You don't deserve to call him your son," she whispers. Kody tries to reach for her hand, but she jerks away as though burned. The judge clears his throat, restoring order. "We will now reconsider all custody claims, distribution of assets, and credibility of testimonies. And based on this new revelation, I must request a full forensic audit of all financial accounts." Gasps spread again. Christine sinks back in her chair, spent. Robyn clutches her chest, sobbing. Meri wipes her face, stunned and devastated. Janelle stands frozen, her world shattered in a way she never imagined. And Kody sits alone, broken, exposed, and terrified of what comes next. The judge raises his gavel. "We will reconvene in 1 hour to determine the formal charges related to the concealed account and the intent behind the relocation plan." His gaze sharpens. This court is not finished. He strikes the gavel. The sound booms like thunder. And just like that, Session 4 ends with a truth so explosive it changes everything the Browns thought they knew about their family. As the 5th session unfolds, the courtroom feels heavier than ever, as if every breath taken inside these walls drags another ounce of tension into the air. Christine sits poised, her fingers intertwined tightly, staring at the polished wood table as though it could tell her the future. Robyn watches her, eyes red, but something in her gaze has sharpened, a quiet storm gathering behind trembling eyelashes. Kody stands at the center with a calmness that isn't natural, a manufactured steadiness that makes the judge narrow her eyes. He's preparing for something, mentally stacking emotional cards the way a gambler rehearses a final bluff. The judge clears her throat and announces that before any final testimonies continue, both sides must address the mysterious envelope. Still sealed, still untouched, still the centerpiece of every whispered theory swirling around the courtroom. Christine's lawyer argues that opening it now could derail procedural fairness, while Kody's attorney insists the envelope is the heart of the case, a phrase that makes Kody flinch ever so slightly. That flinch doesn't go unnoticed. Christine's eyes lock on him, and something deep inside her stirs. Not anger, not fear, but recognition. She's seen that expression before, years ago, in the earliest cracks of their marriage, when he hid things behind long silences and even longer sermons about family unity. The judge pauses, weighing the arguments, then orders a recess so each party can privately decide whether the envelope should be opened before the next witness takes the stand. The moment the judge steps away, the courtroom erupts into murmurs. Christine walks toward the hallway with steps that hide her shaking knees, while Kody strides in the opposite direction without looking back. Everything is shifting now, and whoever controls the truth inside that envelope controls the entire narrative. Christine slips into a quiet conference room with her lawyer, the door shutting softly behind them. She leans against the wall, her breath unsteady. "I'm scared," she admits, though the words hurt her throat. Her lawyer sits across from her, eyes gentle but firm. "Christine, I think you already know what's inside." That sentence slices through her like a cold wind. She does know, or at least she fears she does, something Kody swore would never surface again. Meanwhile, across the hall, Kody crashes into a chair, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Robyn stands nearby, clutching her arms like she's protecting herself from an invisible blow. "Kody, you told me that envelope was empty. You said it was just a strategy." He lowers his face, fingers pressed against his temples. "I didn't think she kept proof," he mutters. "I didn't think she'd ever go this far." Robyn's voice cracks. "What did you do?" But he doesn't answer. He just closes his eyes as if replaying a memory too dangerous to speak aloud. The truth isn't just threatening to break open. It's already leaking through the cracks, and everyone feels it. Back in the courtroom, as the recess ends, the atmosphere is so silent it borders on eerie. The judge returns and asks each side if they have made their decision. Kody is the first to respond. "Your Honor," he says, lifting his chin, "I'm ready for the envelope to be opened." Robyn gasps under her breath, but he doesn't flinch. Christine, however, hesitates. For a fraction of a second, her hand trembles so subtly no one else seems to notice, but she notices. Her lawyer whispers, "We can still say no." Christine looks at the judge, then at Kody. Really looks at him, and something inside her clicks into place. She straightens her shoulders. "Your Honor, we agree." The judge nods, then signals an officer to retrieve the envelope. Each step the officer takes feels like footsteps echoing through hollowed memories, the kind that haunt long after they've passed. The envelope is placed at the judge's bench. Fingers hover above it. Kody stiffens. Christine closes her eyes for a moment, as if bracing for impact. And in that fragile quiet, something unexpected happens. Meri stands up. Her chair scrapes loudly against the floor, breaking the tension with a jolt that makes every head spin toward her. She steps forward, unsure at first, then steadier, voice trembling but brave. "Before that envelope is opened, I need to speak." The judge hesitates. Kody's eyes widen. Christine looks stunned. Meri continues, her voice thick with emotion. "I wasn't planning to testify today, but if that envelope contains what I think it does, then the truth isn't complete without what I have to say." The judge considers, then nods. "You may approach." Meri walks slowly to the witness stand, her hand shaking so badly she struggles to be sworn in. But once she sits, once she breathes, something inside her shifts into clarity. She looks at Christine, then Robyn, then finally, painfully, at Kody. "This family has been breaking for years," she begins softly. But the moment everything truly shattered wasn't when Christine left. It wasn't when we split homes. It wasn't even when the show made all our cracks visible. She swallows. "It was the night Kody told us something we were never supposed to repeat. Something I thought would stay buried forever." Kody shoots up from his seat, voice tight. "Meri, stop." But she doesn't. She keeps her eyes on the judge. "I believe," she whispers, "that what's inside that envelope is proof of the lie that destroyed all of us." A gasp ripples across the room. Robyn covers her mouth. Christine's heart thunders. The judge turns to the bailiff. "Open the envelope." The bailiff reaches for it, and the camera of every courtroom reporter tilts forward in unison, as though the whole world is leaning in. The truth is seconds away now, and no one, not even Kody, can stop what's coming next. And as the envelope is opened, just before the contents are revealed, the screen of this story's world metaphorically freezes, pulling viewers deeper into the mystery. For whatever lies inside is not just evidence, but it forms the reason this family stands on opposite sides of a courtroom. Before we head into the next session, drop a comment below. Do you think the envelope holds a secret from the past or a betrayal from the present? The second the bailiff slides whatever is in that envelope onto the judge's desk, the entire courtroom seems to fold in on itself, like the oxygen thins and every heartbeat echoes louder than the ticking clock on the back wall. Christine sits frozen, her breath caught at the top of her lungs, while Kody leans forward with the tense, rigid posture of a man preparing for impact. The judge lifts a single sheet of paper, examines it silently for one long, unbearable moment, then looks up with an expression that blends disbelief and a stern sort of disappointment. "This she says quietly, is a sworn statement. The words cut like a blade across the room. A sworn statement signed by Kody years earlier admitting he had intended to transfer financial authority exclusively to Robyn under the guise of protecting the family assets, while simultaneously planning to separate the other wives from long-shared property rights. Christine's jaw drops. Janelle, sitting behind her, covers her mouth in shock. Robyn's face goes white as she realizes the implications. That the document she once believed was merely a contingency plan had in fact been a blueprint for the collapse of everything the wives built together. This revelation changes the course of the entire case, and everyone in that courtroom feels the ground shift beneath them. Kody leaps immediately to his feet, protesting that the statement was drafted but never executed, claiming he wrote it during a time of emotional instability and that it had no legal weight. But the judge raises a calm hand, silencing him. Whether or not it was executed, she says, it demonstrates intent. That word, intent, lands like a stone in the pit of his stomach. Christine stares straight ahead, remembering the night she cried alone, wondering why every conversation about the future felt like walking blindfolded into a minefield. Her heart aches with the realization that she wasn't imagining it. She was being quietly erased. Robyn wipes her tears, but even her crying sounds different now, hollow, as though something inside her has unraveled. She turns to Kody with trembling lips. You told me this was just a precaution. You told me it was to protect the kids. Kody stares down at the table, refusing to meet her eyes. He knows if he looks at her, he'll see the exact moment she loses whatever was left of her faith in him. The judge orders a short break so attorneys can review the document. As the courtroom empties into the hallway, whispers explode like wildfire. Some stare at Christine with newfound sympathy. Others murmur about betrayal, greed, and the strange truth that come crawling out when families fracture under pressure. Christine steps into a quiet corner, leaning against the cold wall, her eyes brimming. She whispers to her lawyer, all those years, he was planning our ending before we even knew there was a beginning. Her lawyer places a hand on her shoulder. This is why you fought. This is why you're here. But Christine senses there's more beneath the surface, something darker that this document only hints at, not fully reveals. Meanwhile, Kody paces in a small consultation room, his hands shaking with a blend of anger and panic. She shouldn't have had that, he mutters. I destroyed the copy. His attorney straightens. You destroyed your copy. You have no idea who else had access at the time. Kody freezes. A flash of memory hits him. The night he wrote it, sitting at the kitchen table, thinking everyone else was asleep. But someone was awake. Someone saw him. Someone who had been quietly observing everything. And suddenly, Kody's eyes widen as the realization comes crashing in. It was Meri. Not only did she see it, she photographed it. She didn't do it out of revenge. She did it out of fear. Fear that one day she would need proof of why everything was falling apart. As the break ends, everyone returns to the courtroom. Christine feels steadier now, strengthened by truth finally surfacing. Kody, on the other hand, walks in slower, weighed down by the crumbling facade he spent years holding up. The judge takes her seat. Given the significance of this document, she says, we will allow additional testimony specifically related to the events surrounding its creation. Christine's lawyer immediately stands up. Your Honor, we call Meri Brown to the stand. Robyn lets out a soft cry, covering her face in her hands. She knows what this means. She knows Meri is done being silent. As Meri takes the stand again, she looks exhausted but resolute. Her voice cracks at first, but she finds strength as she speaks. The night he wrote that document, she begins, I was in the hallway. I heard arguing in his voice even though nobody else was there. He was talking to himself, convincing himself that separating us was the only way forward. She pulls out her phone, an old photograph still saved inside, a photo of the document, the timestamp from years ago. Gasps ripple across the courtroom. Christine clutches her chest. Kody shuts his eyes, swallowing hard. Meri continues. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to believe what I saw, and I thought, maybe if I stayed quiet, maybe if I didn't question him, things would get better. Her voice breaks. But things only got worse. The courtroom is a minefield of emotions now, every confession a spark igniting another explosion beneath the surface. Kody's attorney attempts to object, but the judge overrules, allowing Meri to continue. He told us we were a family, but he planned our separation before any of us knew we had already lost him. Christine feels tears run down her cheeks. Not tears of weakness, but tears of painful validation. Everything she suspected had roots deeper than she imagined. The judge then asks a final question. Mrs. Brown, in your opinion, was the document intended to harm the other wives financially? Meri's voice steadies. Yes, she says, even if he didn't want to admit it. Yes. And with that, a silence heavier than every previous moment fills the room. Kody looks broken, not from guilt, but from losing control over a truth he never wanted exposed. Christine clasps her hands together, grounding herself in the moment she waited years for. Robyn quietly sobs, realizing that even she was used as leverage in a game she didn't fully understand. The judge leans back, processing the full weight of the testimony and the evidence. We will take one final recess before I give my preliminary ruling, she says. As the courtroom empties once again, the emotional chaos spills into the hallways. Christine trembling with release, Kody pacing like a trapped animal, Meri collapsing into a seat as though she finally put down a burden she carried for too long. Something irreversible has happened here, and when the judge returns, the balance of power in this family will never be the same again. Before we move to the next session, comment your thoughts. Do you believe Kody still has a defense left, or is this the moment everything truly falls apart? When the courtroom reconvenes for session 7, the atmosphere is no longer tense. It's suffocating, as though the walls themselves are bracing for what comes next. Christine steps back into her seat, her hands steadier now, a quiet strength settling across her features. Meri sits nearby, eyes glassy but resolved, while Janelle gently places a supportive hand on Christine's shoulder. Robyn remains a trembling shadow of herself, staring at the polished wooden floor as if answers might rise out of the grain. Kody enters last. He moves slower than before, shoulders heavy, a man who finally understands that the tide has shifted far beyond his control, but his jaws clenched, his eyes sharp, because there is still something he hasn't said. Something he's been holding so tightly, it threatens to snap his composure in half. The judge returns and takes her seat with a measured calm. Before issuing a preliminary ruling, she begins, I will allow closing testimonies that relate specifically to intent, financial impact, and family harm. The phrase family harm stings the air, and Christine feels her breath catch for a moment. Kody's attorney rises first, launching into a desperate attempt to redirect the narrative, insisting that the sworn statement found in the envelope was merely a draft born out of fear and stress, that Kody's leadership model was misunderstood, that polygamous households require unique financial structures. But the judge's expression doesn't shift, and even the gallery watches with skeptical eyes. Christine's attorney responds with a calm, razor-sharp explanation of the document's implications, how trust was broken not just emotionally, but structurally, how hiding such a document created years of invisible harm. The courtroom hangs on every word now, the weight of truth pressing so hard it feels like the walls could crack. Then the judge turns to Kody directly. Mr. Brown, she says, you may give a personal statement before we proceed. Kody steps forward, running a hand through his hair as if searching for the right version of himself to present. He takes a long breath, his voice low at first. Everything I did, he begins, I did because I believed it was the only way to protect us. Christine stiffens. She has heard this line too many times. I was trying to hold together a family that was falling apart. He continues, and sometimes that meant making plans I didn't want to make. Robyn lifts her head slightly, hope flickering across her face. But then Kody's tone shifts, quiet, trembling, raw in a way no one expected. What none of you knew, he says, is what happened the night before I wrote that document. A murmur ripples through the room. Even Christine leans forward. The judge nods. Go on, Mr. Brown. Kody swallows hard. That night, I got a call. A warning. His attorney stiffens but doesn't interrupt. It was from someone in production. Kody continues. They said the network was considering reducing the wives' involvement and shifting the entire show's focus onto me and Robyn. They said it was a financial decision, that viewers were responding differently. I panicked. I thought the family was about to be split apart on national television. Christine's eyes go wide. This is something no one knew. Robyn's lips part in shock. Meri's shoulders fall. Years of confusion suddenly make a horrifying kind of sense. Kody's voice cracks. I wrote that document because I thought if the network cut them out, I needed to make sure Robyn and her kids didn't end up stranded. His shoulders tremble. But I didn't want to cut anyone out. I didn't want to hurt anyone. He stops, exhaling shakily. I just didn't know what else to do. The truth complicates everything, not excusing his actions, but reshaping every assumption that led them here. Christine sits frozen. She remembers those years, the subtle shifts in camera time, the uncomfortable pauses after interviews, the pressure she felt but couldn't name. But the judge remains steady. Regardless of production influence, she says firmly, you kept this from your wives, and the secrecy caused irreparable damage. Kody nods, defeated. I know. Then Christine rises. Your Honor, she says soft but strong, I'd like to respond. The judge allows it. Christine turns to face Kody fully, and her words vibrate with years of buried pain finally given permission to breathe. We could have survived anything, she says. We could have survived cameras, rumors, production pressure, even the emotional strain of plural marriage. But what I couldn't survive, was being shut out of my own family's future. She steps closer. You didn't give us the choice to fight with you. You made the choice to fight without us. Kody's eyes shine with emotion, but he doesn't speak. Christine continues, her voice shaking. You thought protecting one part of the family meant sacrificing the rest. But that's not protection, Kody. That's abandonment. Her words strike the room like thunder. Even spectators wipe their eyes. This is no longer just testimony. This is the breaking point the entire story has been building toward. Then the judge asks Robyn if she would like to speak. For a long moment, Robyn doesn't move. Her hands shake in her lap. Finally, she rises. I never wanted to be the reason the family broke, she whispers. I never asked him to protect just me. I thought he was protecting all of us. Her voice cracks into a sob. If I had known what that document meant, I would have never agreed to it. Christine watches her, surprised to see sincerity instead of strategy. Janelle nods slowly, understanding the complexity even through the pain. Meri lowers her head, overwhelmed. Kody looks torn apart by Robyn's tears, because for the first time, even she sees the full picture. The judge nods at Robyn gently, then she gathers the papers in front of her, tapping them neatly into alignment. I will now deliver my preliminary ruling, she says. The entire room holds its breath. But before she can speak, the double doors at the back of the courtroom swing open. A man steps inside, someone no one expected to see. A former producer from the early seasons. He walks straight to the judge, handing her an envelope with a legal stamp. Your Honor, he says, I was asked to deliver this immediately. It contains internal production emails relevant to the events being discussed. The courtroom erupts. Christine's jaw drops. Kody stumbles back a step. Robyn grips the table. Meri looks like she can't breathe. The judge opens the envelope, scanning the first page. Her eyes widen, just a fraction, but enough to send a shockwave through the room. These emails, she says slowly, suggest that the network's plan was not what Mr. Brown was told. Christine freezes. Kody's face drains of color. Robyn whispers, "What does that mean?" The judge continues reading, her voice steady. According to these communications, the network planned to shift the focus toward the wives, not away from them. Mr. Brown was given false information. Gasps ripple across the room. Christine grips the table, her knuckles white. Meri closes her eyes tight as if everything is too much. Robyn starts to cry again, but this time the sound is soft, dizzy, disbelieving. And Kody? He sinks into his chair, a man realizing he was manipulated in ways he never understood. Christine looks at him, seeing not just the man who hurt her, but the man who was also misled. The judge lifts the emails higher. We have entered a new dimension of this case, she says, and this changes the entire course of the proceedings. The truth has exploded into something bigger than anyone anticipated, and the next moments will redefine everything this family thought they knew. Before we go to the next session, tell me in the comments, do you think Kody was a victim of manipulation or responsible for not questioning the truth? As session 8 opens, the courtroom holds its breath, feeling like a fragile quiet that could shatter with a single word, and Christine could feel every beat of her heart echo through her chest as the judge spreads the newly delivered production emails across the bench, examining them with a level of focus so intense that even the air seems to thicken around her. Kody sits slumped forward with his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor, his face pale as the weight of the truth he didn't ask for, truth he didn't seek, dives straight into him like a tidal wave he never saw coming. Christine watches him, emotions twisting in complicated knots she isn't ready to unravel, because while he may have been misled, the consequences of his decisions were real, sharp, and deeply felt. Robyn is trembling beside him, her hands clasped tightly together, whispering under her breath as though praying for a version of reality that doesn't exist anymore. The judge finally lifts her gaze. Her voice is slow, deliberate. These emails reveal that the information given to Mr. Brown at the time was false, crafted by specific production staff with intentions not yet fully understood. A ripple of shock moves through the spectators, the energy shifting like a current under the surface. Christine's mouth falls slightly open. Meri covers her heart with her hand. Janelle wipes a tear that escapes before she can stop it. The judge continues, "However, misinformation does not absolve an individual from responsibility for actions taken in secrecy." Her eyes land firmly on Kody, and Christine sees him brace himself for the impact. Every lingering thread of truth, guilt, and misunderstanding is colliding at once, and the courtroom trembles beneath the collision. Kody rises slowly, something raw tightening in his throat. "Your Honor," he says, voice thick, "I understand what this evidence means. I understand that what I thought was happening wasn't real." He glances at Christine, at Meri, at Janelle. "But I still made choices that hurt them. I didn't talk. I didn't trust. I didn't include the people who deserve to know the truth." He swallows hard. "I failed my family." Christine feels tears rise, unbidden and unexpected, because for the first time in years, the man standing before her is not defensive or dismissive. He is broken, aware, and painfully human. Robyn gasps softly, gripping the edge of the table, tears spilling. But the judge isn't finished. She calls the newly arrived producer to the stand. He sits down nervously, adjusting his tie. The emails, he admits, were part of an internal strategy discussion. Certain staff believed drama would increase viewership if the wives felt uncertain about their roles. They wanted division, and some information was intentionally manipulated. The room buzzes with outrage. Christine's jaw tightens. She remembers moments when producers asked strange questions, subtly pushing emotions in certain directions. Meri presses a tissue to her eyes. Kody's expression contorts with a mix of anger and shame. The judge leans in. "So, you're telling this court that you intentionally misled Mr. Brown in a way that directly disrupted his family?" The producer nods, voice cracking. "Yes, and I'm deeply sorry. The revelation is a new earthquake, because now the cracks in this family are revealed to be not only internal, but engineered from the outside." Christine inhales shakily. "So we were fighting each other," she whispers, "when we should have been fighting the people pulling the strings." Janelle nods, tears streaming. Even Robyn looks stunned, her mouth trembling as truth rearranges the pieces in her mind. But the judge straightens her shoulders. "Even with external influence," she says firmly, "each adult here held the power to communicate, to question, and to seek clarity. The choices made in secrecy still carry weight. This time, no one argues. Not even Kody." Christine rises, asking permission to speak. The judge nods. She walks slowly to the center of the courtroom, facing the man who was once her husband, once her friend, once the center of a life she now sees in sharp, complicated fragments. "Kody," she says softly, "I spent years thinking I wasn't enough, thinking you stopped loving me, or respecting me, or seeing me. But now I understand something I didn't before. Someone lit the fire under us, and we didn't realize it until everything was already burning." Her voice wavers. "But you still chose not to tell us what you were told, and that broke something in me I can't fix." Kody's eyes glisten. He nods. "I know, and I'm sorry." She steps back, exhaling. "I don't need revenge. I don't need to win. I just need the truth to finally have a place in our story." The courtroom softens for a moment, as if the emotional tension folds into something quieter, something almost healing. The judge then calls for final statements. Robyn goes first, apologizing through tears for her role, intentional or not, in the widening cracks. She admits she clung to security without seeing how it isolated the others. Janelle speaks next, her voice steady, explaining that she wants fairness, not vengeance. Meri's voice shakes as she confesses she stayed silent too long, out of fear, out of habit, out of hope that things might magically improve. And finally, Christine's attorney summarizes the pain caused, the financial secrecy, and the emotional fallout that spanned years. The judge listens to all of it, then takes a long contemplative pause before delivering her ruling. Based on the evidence, she says, her tone final and solemn, I find that the financial inequities created through secrecy and misrepresentation must be corrected. Assets will be redistributed accordingly. Christine's breath releases in a trembling wave. Meri exhales deeply. Janelle closes her eyes in relief. The judge continues, and regarding emotional harm and familial instability, the court encourages mediation for closure, though this is not a legal directive. She looks at each of them. You have all suffered, you have all contributed, and you all deserve clarity as you move forward. And with that, she adjourns. The gavel falls, echoing through the courtroom like the final heartbeat of a story years in the making. The families don't rush to leave. They stand there, suspended, processing the enormity of everything exposed. Christine approaches Kody. They look at each other, no longer partners, no longer enemies, just two people who survived something impossible. We can move on now, she whispers. He nods, voice too soft to hear. Robyn wipes her tears, stepping closer to Christine. I'm sorry, she whispers. Christine nods gently. We all were hurt. We all were used. But now, we can close this chapter. For the first time in years, there is no shouting, no fighting, no blame. Just raw truth settling into the hearts of people who finally see the whole picture. As they walk out of the courtroom together, separate but strangely united in closure, the world outside feels softer, brighter, lighter. Reporters surge forward, flashing their cameras, but Christine doesn't stop. She looks forward, not back. She survived, she healed, and she reclaimed her voice. As we close the story out for good, leave a comment below. Do you think the Brown family will ever be truly reunited? Or is this the start of entirely separate futures?